There is something inside you right now. Not a feeling, not a thought, something older than both of those things. It was there when you were born. It was there in your parents and their parents and every single ancestor stretching back 500 million years. It has never once taken a day off. It has never made a mistake. And right now, at this exact moment, it is watching. Not watching for you, watching through you. Here's the strange part. You have never noticed it, not once. And yet, it has already fired today, probably dozens of times, shaping what you looked at, what you feared, what felt wrong without any reason. Scientists have a name for it, but the name doesn't quite capture what it is. Imagine you were walking through a forest at dusk. The light is low, the trees are close, and somewhere, deeper in, something shifts. You didn't hear it clearly. You didn't see anything move, but something underneath your thoughts just told you to stop. So you stop, and the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Now here's the question no one ever asks. How did you know? You didn't process a logical threat assessment. You didn't think the density of shadows exceeds a safe threshold. Your brain did something faster than thinking, something that happened before language, before reason, before you even had the chance to be afraid. That response, that is what we're going to talk about today. Because it doesn't just live in forests, it lives in boardrooms, in crowds, in the way you feel when a stranger stands just slightly too close, in the way a baby reaches for a parent before it understands what danger even is. And when you understand what it really is, where it came from, what it's actually doing, you will never look at your own mind the same way. The question isn't why do we feel fear? Everyone knows fear. Fear is the easy answer. The real question is this. Why does every living thing on Earth, from a bacterium to a blue whale, share the same fundamental drive encoded across 500 million years of evolution to detect and respond to something it cannot yet see? Why does life itself seem to be organized around the prediction of threat? And what does it mean that the same mechanism running in a sea slug, a crow, a chimpanzee, and a human child is essentially, structurally, the same thing? That's where this gets strange. Let's start small. In the 1960s, researchers studying vervet monkeys in East Africa noticed something unusual. The monkeys had different alarm calls, not one generic danger sound, but specific calls for specific threats. One call for eagles, a different one for snakes, another for leopards. And the other monkeys responded to each call differently. Eagle call, they looked up and ran into the bushes. Snake call, they stood up and scanned the grass. Leopard call, they climbed into the trees. This wasn't learned behavior from watching predators. Young monkeys who had never seen a leopard still ran for trees when they heard the call. It was built in. But here's where it gets strange. The researchers found that monkeys would sometimes give a false alarm. A non-threatening bird would fly overhead, and a monkey would call out the eagle warning, and the whole group would scramble. At first, scientists thought this was simply error, mistakes in a high-pressure system. But that's not what was happening. What the monkeys were doing, and what researchers eventually understood, is called hypervigilance bias. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. It is better to give 10 false alarms than to miss one real threat. From an evolutionary standpoint, the cost of a false alarm is a few seconds of unnecessary running. The cost of a missed alarm is death. So the system is deliberately calibrated to overreact. Now think about what that means for you. Deep inside your brain, underneath everything you think of as you, sits a structure called the amygdala. It is ancient, older in evolutionary terms than the parts of your brain that form memories, feel empathy, or solve problems. It is sometimes called the fear center, but that name is too simple. The amygdala is not just a fear detector, it is a prediction engine. Here is what it actually does.
Every piece of sensory information coming into your brain, sound, sight, smell, touch, passes through a kind of rapid triage system before it reaches your conscious awareness. The amygdala processes that information in milliseconds and asks one question: is this a threat? If the answer is maybe, it fires. Not if the answer is yes, if the answer is maybe. And it fires before you are conscious of what you've seen, before you've thought anything, before you can decide to be afraid. Joseph Ledoux, the neuroscientist who mapped much of this system, called it the low road. The brain has two pathways for processing fear, a slow, rational one through the cortex and a fast, reflexive one through the amygdala. And the fast one wins every time. Because in nature, the cost of hesitation is everything. But here is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The amygdala was not designed to be accurate. It was designed to be fast. And it learns from experience, but not the way you'd hope. It doesn't just learn from real threats, it learns from anything that happened near a threat, any signal, any coincidence, any pattern. Which means it is constantly building a model of danger out of incomplete information, ancient instincts, and the ghost of every frightening thing that ever happened to your ancestors. And it is running right now in the background, shaping everything you see.
Here's where it gets much bigger. This isn't just a mammal thing or a vertebrate thing. Researchers studying C. elegans, a microscopic worm with exactly 302 neurons, found that it performs threat detection. When it detects chemical signals from damaged tissue nearby, it changes its behavior immediately. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have fear in any way we'd recognize. But it has the architecture of vigilance. Even plants. There is a phenomenon called systemic plant signaling. When a caterpillar begins eating a leaf, the plant releases volatile chemical compounds into the air. Nearby plants, plants that have not been touched, begin producing defensive chemicals in response. They are not thinking. They have no nervous system. But something in them detects the signal. And something in them responds. What does that mean? It means the impulse to detect and prepare for threat is not a product of complex brains. It is something more fundamental. It may be one of the most basic properties of any living system. The capacity to sense the environment, recognize a pattern of danger, and change behavior accordingly. Life, in some sense, is organized around this. Not around pleasure, not around reproduction primarily, around threat detection. Because without that, none of the rest of it gets to happen. That's only part of the story. In the last decade, neuroscience has begun to completely reframe how we understand the brain. The old model was simple. The brain receives information from the world, it processes that information, it responds. The new model is stranger and far more interesting. The brain doesn't wait for information from the world. It constantly predicts what the world is going to send and then compares incoming data to that prediction. It is running a continuous simulation of reality and asking at every moment, does this match what I expected? When something doesn't match, when there's a prediction error, the brain lights up. Attention spikes. Resources are redirected. Carl Friston, one of the leading theorists in neuroscience, argues that minimizing prediction error is essentially what the brain is for, and threat is the category of prediction error that carries the highest stakes. Because an unexpected shadow, an unexplained sound, a social interaction that doesn't follow the expected script, these are the prediction errors that, throughout evolutionary history, most often preceded death. So the brain, your brain, has been shaped over millions of years to be exquisitely, almost absurdly sensitive to unpredictability. And here is what that means in practice. It means your fear system doesn't respond to real threats exclusively. It responds to pattern violations, to things that don't fit,
to the uncanny, to the person who smiles but whose eyes don't follow, to the sound that stops at the wrong moment, to the room that feels wrong before you can say why. You are not detecting danger. You are detecting deviation. And your ancient brain has learned that deviation and danger are nearly the same thing. Now step back even further. For most of human history, not hundreds of years, not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in small groups, in open environments, with predators that were faster, stronger, and had far better night vision. The humans who survived were not necessarily the bravest, or the strongest, or the most intelligent. They were the ones who were most suspicious, the ones who didn't walk confidently into the dark, who woke up at the sound of breathing, who felt uneasy when something didn't look right, even if they couldn't explain why. That instinct was selected for generation after generation, until it became the default setting of the human mind. We inherited a mind shaped for a world that no longer exists, a world of darkness and predators and ambush and tribal danger. And we now live that ancient mind through traffic jams and office politics and social media and crowded subway cars. The threat detection system is still running. It never stopped. It just has fewer actual threats to find. So it finds other things. Here is the thing that stays with me. Every living thing, every one of us, is carrying something ancient, something that has never stopped working, never rested, never asked permission to act, something that watched the world for danger long before any of us had words for what we were watching for. It is not a flaw. It is the reason you are here. Every person alive is the descendant of someone who didn't walk into the dark carelessly, who felt the wrongness before they saw the threat, who stopped for just a moment in a forest at dusk when something moved. That pause, that shiver, that wordless knowing, that is 500 million years of survival speaking through you. The next time you feel it, that crawling unease, that sudden stillness, that sense that something is wrong before you can name it, don't dismiss it. It is older than your name, older than your language, older than your species. It is life itself, still doing what it has always done, watching, waiting, keeping you alive.